we had some attorneys at the last minute, and we're like, what about this, what about that?
Oh, okay.
So if you want to mention it in your staff report, we're going to. Thank you.
Okay.
Got your pen up?
Okay.
Good grab some snacks.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Just a reminder to silence your cell phones, please. And we'll start with roll call.
Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilor Garrell.
Here.
Councilor Klinkhammer.
Here.
Councilor Lindstrom.
Here.
Councilor Spradlin. Councilor Tyree. Councilor White.
All right. Luckily, we got a form fairly early. Made it. All right. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or corrections for the agenda? Just some work session
One of the
stuff
work
we're
session
gonna-
items, the financial updates for the city. Joanne's going to wait until we have more of the council members present.
Okay. Look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for the regular meeting, April 10th of 2023.
I'll second as amended by staff.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Klinkhammer.
Yes.
Councilor Garrell.
Yes.
Councilor Lindstrom.
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. The motion passes. And next we have I'll have a chance to look through the minutes of the previous meeting. I'd look for a motion. Are there any corrections or revisions on the minutes? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve those minutes.
We approve the regular meeting of March 27th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Lindstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Garrell.
Yes.
Councilor Klinkhammer.
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. That motion passes. Next we have visitors and delegations. We'll start with the East Morgan County Library. We've got Laura McConnell here with the library EMCL director. Looks like she brought moral support.
Yes, I'm one of the board members, thank you. Like she said, I'm Laura McConnell, I'm the director at the East Morgan County Library District. I have Tom Hoffman, our president, and Andrea Strand, our secretary. And I wanted to start by saying thank you for the donation that we received last week from the city for $1,000. We are grateful for that every year. We use it typically for trimming our trees in the park. We have lots of trees, and we usually get about 10 trimmed a year just to keep the park looking nice. So thank you for that. Our mission for the library is providing patrons with inspiration, education, and recreation through opportunities and resources to enhance the quality of life in our community. Personally, for me as a director, my personal mission is to fill needed, reasonable gaps in the community without being redundant, and also to be an information conduit for the community. So if someone brings up a suggestion, you really should do this here, we kind of look and see, is it really a need? Is it something that somebody else is already doing? Because I don't want to take away from what somebody else is doing, but if someone else is doing that really well, I want to have the information I can to pass on to our community, because a lot of people come into our building looking for information when they're new to town, visitors, any of those things. Our current board members are Tom, who's our president, Larry Coughlin is our vice president, Andrea is the secretary, Larry Geoke is our treasurer, and we have Carla Kruger, Lenore Wind, and Joy Freehoff. So those are our current board members. And you have a couple papers. This one here that we'll hand it out to is kind of a synopsis of our annual report that we turn into the state every year. And in compiling that this year, I was really struck with some of our changes and comparisons from pre-COVID to post-COVID. We actually are back up and actually have surpassed checkouts of items from before COVID, primarily because we've increased our ebooks and audio ebook collections, and so that kind of helped bump us over that previous number. We also have had some changes in those visiting the library. We're almost up to our pre-COVID attendance. We have near the same number of children at teen and children's programs. One thing that's changed is we're going off-site a little bit more. Our staff goes to the schools. We send some staff to things like the Oktoberfest, doing programs off-site. We've had a large increase in our adult programs. We have a fairly new adult programmer, and she's really increased our adult offerings quite a bit. She's added some programs that reach new demographics, particularly for the Hispanic community and our senior citizens. She has a chair yoga class on Tuesday mornings that we have quite a few elderly ladies that have really enjoyed. So those are just some things we've increased. We also have seen a change in our meeting rooms. So when a lot of the state organizations were closed, they couldn't go into their buildings during COVID, we were open a lot sooner than most places. So places like Centennial Mental Health, and there's a medical clinic in the Front Range, they couldn't meet in their own building, so they had been meeting in our building, and they continue to do that even though their buildings are open. So our meeting rooms are almost always full at different times of the day. We have a lot of drop-ins that use them. So that was a change. We also have had an increase in Wi-Fi usage. I don't know if that's COVID or just society changing. We have a lot of people using our computers, but as people have their own devices, they're using our Wi-Fi. The last couple of years, we also have increased the strength and the reach of our Wi-Fi. We also have hotspots that we check out to people, so that's increased a lot of the technology use. Some of the new challenges we've had have been particularly in the mental and behavioral health issues. Just, the library is a place where anybody can hang out all day and not spend money. So that's a good thing, and it could be a challenging thing that sometimes we have people who are just really struggling, and we have to determine with their behavior if they're following our behavior policies, and then we have to determine what to do, who to call. And I'll touch on that here in just a minute. We also partner with over 30 different entities, the City of Brush being one of them. And I just wanted to specifically thank some of the different departments from the City of Brush. The Rec Department helps us a lot in the summer reading, and we host the Brush Rush for the Rec Department. They allowed us to put the other paper you have is our summer activities. They allow us to put that in their 4 hangers, and we really appreciate that. Just clear it out for the library. And the street department, this year, I know they have worked so hard with all the snow removal. They have just worked endlessly, and there have been a few times where maybe the street snow and ice kind of backed up water into our parking lot, and they came over on an extra trip just to kind of help clear out along the street, and we really have appreciated that. They also bring their big equipment over for summer reading, and that is one of our biggest summer reading activities is we call it rotation station. We have the city vehicles and a petting zoo, and the kids really like to be able to climb on those vehicles. And I especially want to thank the police department, because with the mental and behavioral health issues, they're the ones I call. They're the first line of defense for us, and they've been really good about helping me to, kind of guiding me to say, well, you could try this, or sometimes they can't tell me what to do, but they might give me guidance, and I have greatly appreciated that, because they've really helped me to know if there's other places we can call to get help for the people in our community. That's really all I have. I know I talk fast, I'm sorry, but either of you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to add that I've been with the library board for 4 years now, and it's really been a pleasure to work with some exceptional people. Laura touched upon some of the issues that they run into on a daily basis, almost daily, but the staff always knows how to handle things, so a lot of it's to Laura's credit.
Very great place to be a part of, that's for sure.
I think we're all grateful for that. Do any of you have questions? Well, thank you.
Very good. Thanks for sharing.
All you do.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Right. Next, we have Morgan County Ambulance Service. Travis Freeman, the director, has a presentation for us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me out. Mayor Sherman and I had a conversation over the weekend and over the last several weeks about Morgan County Ambulance Service and our coverage area for the Brush, City of Brush and then surrounding areas. And so we thought it would be a good idea if I came in and kind of talked to you guys and explain what Morgan County Ambulance Service does as a whole. My name is Travis Freeman. I'm the director for Morgan County. I began with Morgan County in 2012. I attended Ames Community College, both for my EMT and paramedic. I have certifications at both the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians as well as the state of Colorado. I'm board certified in the International Board of Specialty Certifications as a flight paramedic. I have an American Heart Association basic life support, advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, pre-hospital trauma life support, advanced burn life support, and advanced medical life support certifications. So that's a little bit of my background. I'm going on my 11th year with the department here. The beginning of Morgan County Ambulance started in 1967. We were founded by the Board of County Commissioners, Conrad, Donald, and Adrian. We were initially comprised of volunteers during that time. And we began covering the Wiggins area in 1976. And the initial training included basic first aid, how to bandage somebody and get somebody safely to the hospital. The equipment at that time included a cot, 2 blankets, 2 pillows, a first aid kit, a bottle of oxygen, change of linen, flashlight, fire extinguisher, sandbags, and 1 emesis basin. So it was pretty much diesel therapy, as we call it, to get somebody to the hospital. In 1983, Morgan County Ambulance Service ran 877 calls for service. Today, the ambulances look a little bit different. You guys see us driving around town and through town. We have 7 physical vehicles in Morgan County. And our coverage area is all of Morgan County. So we have 3 stations within Morgan County. We have a volunteer station over in Wiggins, and the Wiggins area covers the county line east to Morgan County Road 8. The Fort Morgan station on East Railroad Avenue covers County Road 8 to County Road 24. And then Brush, over here on Hospital Road, covers County Road 24 East. In Morgan County, we have 1,296 square miles of coverage area, and our mutual aid areas, as you can see, go up into the New Raymond area, and then along I-76, approximately 1,200 additional miles. So, EMTs and paramedics, as you guys know, provide life-saving medications and procedures to help people experiencing medical emergencies within our communities. We respond to 911 calls, take somebody to the hospital. We assess patients, and we're not the diesel therapy first aid kit type of crew. We actually show up, take some time, do a full assessment, and form a differential diagnosis of what we think is going on with these patients. We bring advanced level practicing to the patient in the home, so we're bringing all of our equipment, supplies, and assessment tools to you. And then we transport patients from one hospital to another for specialty care or doctors that may not be available here in Morgan County. And then finally, we educate the community on when to call 911 and what to do before help arrives. There's a lot of differences between EMTs and paramedics, and I picked out the key differences so that you guys can see the challenges that we're faced with currently. So EMTs, EMT is 1 semester class. It's a certification, 15 credit hours at a community college, and costs approximately $2,500. They provide basic life-saving skills, basic airway, medications, and treatments. And they're allowed 88 acts within the state of Colorado. So the state decides what our scope of practice is, and each state has their defining factors. Below that, our agency medical director can funnel those down even further to tell us what we can and can't do. And then they have 30 clinical hours that they have to complete in the field. To become a paramedic, it's 3 additional semesters after EMT, which is 53 credit hours just for paramedic school. It is at a community college. The closest one is Ames Community College up in Windsor, and it's approximately $17,000 just for tuition, after completing anatomy and physiology, English, math, and those basic courses for prerequisites. We have advanced life-saving skills, including cardiology, pharmacology, and procedures, and paramedics are allowed 233 acts within the state of Colorado. Their clinical hours jump up at this point to 1,200 hours, and this includes hospital time in the OR, ICUs, obstetrics, and then out in the field during their clinical internships. We have advanced airway procedures, in-depth pathophysiology knowledge and how the body works. We can diagnose and treat cardiac rhythms. And we have advanced pharmacology knowledge so that whenever we show up to your house and you give us a bucket of medications that you're taking, we know what those medications are doing inside your body and why you're taking them. Something that's also a challenge for both EMTs and paramedics is that neither of these are eligible for financial aid or FAFSA because they're certificates and they're certificates of completion. Right now, the state of Colorado has allowed community colleges within Colorado funds to be able to pay for EMTs to go to school at no cost so that we can get EMTs to enter into the workforce. These are our medications, both EMT and paramedic, that are allowed here in Morgan County. EMTs are allowed 10 medications, and then paramedics are actually allowed 47 different medications that we're allowed to give. These are our procedures that are allowed. EMTs are allowed 16 different procedures here at Morgan County, and paramedics are allowed 24 different procedures. A list of certifications that we require is a Colorado EMT certificate, a valid driver's license, IV certificate, and BLS CPR. A paramedic is required to have a Colorado paramedic certificate, a driver's license, BLS CPR, advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, neonatal resuscitation, pre-hospital trauma life support, and advanced burn life support. Some of the equipment that we carry with us that you may not know about is a King Vision direct laryngoscopy. So this is for definitive airway management for patients that aren't able to breathe on their own, where we actually have to take over their airway. This is only performed if absolutely necessary, and it's only a skill that a paramedic can do. Our cardiac monitor. Our cardiac monitor goes with us in the house. It's one of those tools that we use to diagnose and treat patients. It helps us to capture blood pressure, heart rate, oxygenation, carbon dioxide, and then we can actually perform an EKG sitting in your home. We bring this with us during every patient assessment and every patient put on our cardiac monitor. Needle decompression. If somebody has a collapsed lung, we can actually place a needle inside the chest wall to be able to alleviate that air that's in the chest. And again, this is only a paramedic procedure. And then finally, a quick trach. If a patient has an airway obstruction, a paramedic will make a small incision to the front of the neck and insert a tube directly into the trachea so that we can manage somebody's airway. This is also used during facial trauma where we're not able to do the ET tube like I talked about earlier. There's a lot of new technologies coming out in EMS. One of them is the Lucas 3. That's the machine that's over the patient here. We carry these on our ambulances. These are CPR machines, and we applied for a grant a number of years ago to receive these, and they perform 99% accuracy for chest compressions for somebody in cardiac arrest, so that when we're traveling down the road and we're performing CPR, we're not getting thrown around, and it's accurate every single time. Ventilators are being used so that we can ventilate patients in the back. Ultrasound is coming out into the field as well so that we can perform ultrasounds on patients. ECMO is essentially us taking the blood out of your body that has no oxygen in it, putting oxygen in it, and then putting that blood back in your body. These are on ambulances. Incubators for those neonatal little infant babies. And then finally, CT scanners are being put on ambulances. This is a pretty new, innovative technology. Obviously, it takes a lot bigger ambulance, and we don't have these out here, but up in the metro area, they're testing them out so that stroke patients or patients with brain bleeds or clots in their brain, they can diagnose as soon as they get to somebody's house and give them the proper treatment before the hospital. We do a lot of education with Morgan County Ambulance, both in-house and outside of Morgan County Ambulance. We provide CPR classes, all those certifications, monthly continuing education as we can, and then we train with fire departments, law enforcement, hospitals. We're getting ready to do some training with the library here in Brush next week. We do public relations, so we go out and do public CPR classes, blood pressure checks, make sure that people know to go to the doctor regularly, check their diabetes, and how to treat patients before we get there. And then we work closely with our fire departments so that we can collaborate on calls. If we're responding to a traffic accident, obviously I'm not going to be able to get somebody out of the car by myself, so I need these guys to use their tools. And we train with them so that we can work better together. We do standbys for the fire departments within the county, so if there's a structure fire that's dispatched, we'll respond with them and provide rehab, traffic control, and assist with operations on scene, and we'll stay until the fire department releases us. We host an annual EMS symposium, so this is for all 12 counties within our Northeast RETAC. RETAC is our board of EMS directors within our region, and it's a one-day class. It's 8 hours of continuing education, and we're getting ready to host this in June, so we're pretty excited. But this is something that we do every year for all of the EMS agencies within Northeast Colorado. And then we have our cadet program. This is for high school students age 16 to 21 who are interested in medicine. And they don't have to have any certifications. They don't have to have any training. We provide them with a uniform. They come in and sign up for shifts, and we actually train them on how to take blood pressures. And our goal is to prepare them for EMT class if they want to go, and then eventually go to paramedic school. And this is where I started, so this is near and dear to my heart. We have a subscription program that a lot of people don't know about. The annual subscription program is for people that live in Morgan County. If you were to sign up, or you and your family were to sign up, and you had to use Morgan County Ambulance, we would bill your insurance company. And then after your insurance pays, you would never see the remaining balance. And so that balance is wrote off. We have about 300 people within the county that apply for the subscription program, and it's an additional insurance so that you don't see an ambulance bill. I do have applications with me if anybody wants one after. A question I get asked a lot is, how much does it cost to ride in the ambulance? And people are really surprised to know that it is a little expensive. Basic life support, or an EMT in the back, is $1,250 base. And we charge $35 per patient loaded mile. So from the time we pick you up at your house till the time we get to the hospital, it's $35 a mile. Advanced life support is $2,000, and that's for a paramedic to be in the back. And we just increased these rates this year to match what our RETAC is. And we sit just below the median for charges that we're actually charging patients. Our ambulance service fund within Morgan County is an enterprise fund. We currently don't receive any taxes, subsidy, or funding from outside sources. 100% of our revenue comes from billing. Grants, as I mentioned before, are used to purchase equipment and ambulances to be able to provide service for the citizens of Morgan County. Without these grants, we would not be able to purchase this equipment because of the cost of it. So an ambulance is expensive because of multiple different facets. The vehicle itself is approximately $200,000. The cot is about $50,000. The monitor, the cardiac monitor, is $35,000. Our stair chair is $15,000. The laptop is $1,500. Splints are $5,000. Other equipment is $25,000. We have $1,000 of medications on each ambulance, which makes each ambulance approximately $320,500. We have 7 of these, so if we do the math, we've invested approximately $2.2 million just in vehicles to have 7 across the county. This doesn't include salaries, maintenance, replacement of those supplies, repairs, fuel, the buildings, personnel, health insurance, uniforms, our training, or utilities. So ambulances are pretty expensive, and they don't maybe look like they're really expensive, but Costs are going up, just like the fire departments for their trucks. Ours are going up every year, approximately 5 to 10% each year. Here in Morgan County, our crews work 72 hours consecutively, the full-time crews do. This type of rotation is really normal for agencies that are outside of the metro area. They'll either work 24, 48, or 72 hours, and our crews really like this shift change. This averages to 54 hours a week. Our full-time staff gets 4% retirement match on all their hours. If you're single, your health insurance is paid for. You get paid time off. And we start EMTs at $49,442 annually. A paramedic starting salary is $58,726 a year. So in 2012, we had 177 calls for service per month on average. In 2022, we're averaging 281 calls for service a month. This is a 58% increase in calls per month just within the last 10 years. In 2012, we had 400 interfacility transfer requests. So as you know, our hospitals here in the county don't have a lot of specialties, so we take a lot of patients up to the metro area or even up north to Greeley or Fort Collins to get those services. In 2022, we had 604 transfer requests. An average transfer takes between 3.5 to 4.5 hours per transfer. This was a 51% increase. In 2012, we had 1,776 911 calls that came in that we responded to. And in 2022, we had 2,764 calls for service for 911s. Wow. This was a 55% increase in the last 10 years. This shows our calls for service just in a graph. You guys can see from 2007 to 2022, we had a pretty substantial increase. Our service went full-time approximately 2006 for Fort Morgan and Brush both. And so from that time, we've had quite a big increase. Calls by district, the blue one on top is the Fort Morgan ambulance. The green one is your Brush ambulance here. And then the one at the bottom is Wiggins. So we're looking at what each unit is running, each ambulance. In 2020, we doubled our calls for service for the Wiggins area. So right now, Morgan County Ambulance is experiencing increased call volumes, a higher demand for EMS professionals, increased education requirements, and higher public demand for education and services. Our service is changing. We're adaptive, like I talked about those EMS, the ultrasound and the CT scanners and those things that are coming out into ambulance services. We're getting new equipment all the time, and costs are just rising and rising and rising. We are trained. Like I said, we have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge in our heads that we carry around, and we're practitioners. We call ourselves practitioners because we're practicing medicine. We're not just throwing you in the back of the ambulance and driving to the hospital really quickly. We're actually performing skills, doing a full assessment, and developing that differential diagnosis so we can treat you appropriately. On March 7th, 8th, and 9th of this year, we invited out 8 different people from across the state. This included the SEMTAC board, which is our State Emergency Medical Trauma Service Advisory Council. They're the ones that govern EMS bodies in the state of Colorado. We invited our regional specialists. We used other ambulance service directors. We used nursing managers and trauma leaders from across Colorado. And we interviewed 28 different stakeholders, including the fire departments, law enforcement, the hospitals, community members, and then people from the county as well. And so on June 23rd of this year at 7 o'clock, they're going to present a final report. That final report is going to include all these bullet points, including system finance, information systems, human resources, education, legislation, medical direction, clinical care, how we're doing at bedside, integration of health services, public education, prevention, communication systems, mass casualty, all these things is what they looked at. And so their final report will bullet each of those out. It'll show our strengths, weaknesses, and then give recommendations for sustainability within Morgan County. So we're looking forward to this June 23rd at 7 o'clock at Fort Morgan High School. Tentatively, that's where we're going to be hosting it. And so it's going to be open to you guys because you guys are an intricate part to what we do. And even though we're a county-run operation, you guys, we do service your city, and we'd like you to be there. Do you guys currently have any questions for me? There's a lot of information. I have my contact info if you guys think of anything afterwards.
The study that you guys are doing?
Yes.
Who's paying for that study? Is it like a different group that mandates this, or you guys just chose to be evaluated? Where did that come from?
Good question. So the state of Colorado, or SEMTAC, they're the ones that we normally apply for grants for that equipment and ambulances. And they have developed the consultative visit across the state for agencies like ourselves that are experiencing challenges. And so we actually applied for it through our RETAC, through our region. And so the RETAC is our physical agent, and it's 100% funded through the state EMS boards.
When you said the ambulance services was an enterprise fund, when you guys come up short, does the county then pay the difference if you're short on something, or how do you guys manage that?
Short on our budget, you're saying?
Correct.
Currently, our budget's been able to sustain our operation right now.
Okay.
That's with the enterprise fund.
Correct.
First of all, I'd like to say excellent presentation. That
Thank you.
was
Kinda
absolutely
lengthy.
amazing.
There's a lot that we do, and I appreciate it.
This discussion came up at our last council meeting in the fact that there has been on more than one occasion just this year, since the beginning of the year, that our ambulance barn here in Brush has not been staffed. Can you speak to that?
The ambulance service right now, as you know, is experiencing staffing challenges. I'm sure you've been well aware. The station here in Brush, full disclosure, has been closed 26 days since the first of the year. We've been keeping, when the days that we're short-staffed, our staff is in Fort Morgan so that we're at a central location. Because our Wiggins station is volunteer, we're having to cover the entire county from one location. So currently we're working really hard with human resources and the county commissioners to try and do the recruitment and retention. We have 2 paramedic students right now that'll be graduating in August, and right now I have 5 full-time paramedics.
And you're supposed to have how many?
9.
So are you budgeted for 9?
We are budgeted for 9.
So you just gotta find people to fill those
Correct.
spots.
What would you say, how would you say that that would increase your response time, though, when you're trying to have Fort Morgan as a central location? Because obviously it sounds like we're not taking the brunt of it as much as I felt maybe we were. It sounds like the whole county's taking the brunt of it.
The response times that we're seeing right now are less than 10 minutes from the time we're dispatched till the time we arrive on scene. And so we've been able to respond in a timely manner as quickly as possible. Days that we're short-staffed, I make myself available to respond with the crews. And if we need to, we'll split up the crews. So if I have a paramedic and an EMT, they're both taking an ambulance by themselves, and then we're dispatching the fire department to drive for us.
And how often would you say that you're dispatching the fire department to drive for you?
Just to drive.
Mm-hmm.
That is a data element that we were actually trying to capture last year for our report writing software, and I don't have those exact numbers. If I had to guess, it would be about 10% of our call volume, maybe.
Has it ever been a consideration of either the ambulance service or the county level to compensate the firefighters for when they have to drive? Because they're not there to perform their job as a firefighter necessarily. They're leaving work or they're leaving wherever they need to be to help assist you guys because you're short-staffed.
Correct.
And they're volunteers. So has that ever been a conversation?
There has been discussion about it, and I can't speak on the county commissioner's thoughts about it, but it has been conversation.
Is it a continuing conversation?
It is.
Okay. I mean, I obviously have a lot of questions because, I mean...
That's why I'm here.
I'm just seeing our volunteer services, and I know, and I think everyone knows this, I hope everyone knows this, that every single firefighter in our entire county is volunteer,
Yes.
right? So it's kind of hard when you're balancing between a paid service and a volunteer service. But really what it comes down to also is response time.
Correct.
So if you guys aren't available, you know, have a volunteer that has to leave from wherever they may be, go to their station, get the truck that has the life-saving equipment, get to the call wherever that may be. And we lost probably 5 minutes in the course of that. And as you know, minutes matter.
They do.
And so I guess I'm just a little, want to make sure that we stay in communication and have these conversations, because I would hate to see a single citizen lost because we can't get there. That would be really, really sad. So I appreciate all this
That's why I'm here.
information.
You guys saw the increase in calls for service, right? And recognized that our calls per month has increased, including our transfers. From the time that Morgan County Ambulance became full-time till today, our staffing full-time has not changed and has been the same. We've had one additional paramedic position, but that's been for supervisors, and we haven't been able to fill those.
So we know already that staffing seems to be an issue, right? But as the mayor asked, you have room in your budget for 9. What would you actually need, and how do you go about that? And I'm sure that's a conversation you've had with the commissioners and trying to get that accomplished.
We have, and we're tentatively waiting for the final report to come out. If I had personal opinions about how many ambulances we needed, I would say at least 3 to 4 ambulances on in the county per day.
I'm actually surprised that there's not, given the population of the county. And that's just, especially because how many do you have on per day on average?
We have 2. We have positions for 2 full ambulances and then 1 paramedic supervisor per day.
So if one of them's on a transport to Greeley or to Loveland, we have 1 ambulance to service our entire county.
Correct.
That's just terrifying.
And I do know that the commissioners have been working collectively with human resources. They've been working with the county attorney to try and figure out how we can, fund EMTs to go to paramedic school. Like I said, it's quite a bit of money to go to paramedic school. It's a huge time commitment. It's 1 calendar year. So even if I send somebody today, I'm not going to get them until next April.
And it's no small feat, right? Like, going
It's
through all
not.
that education is no small feat. So
It's not.
I absolutely appreciate what you guys do, and I don't want you to think in any way that I don't, because I absolutely appreciate what you do. I just want to see more of you.
Absolutely.
And also, I don't want to discredit either what our firefighters do in any of the cities. They all make a great effort to get there and to be there. But, how does that feel to a volunteer if they couldn't get there in time? So I want to make sure that we're staying on top of this issue. So thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So what are you hoping, are you hoping for as an end result for the final report?
So once the final report is given and everybody's in the same room hearing the same final report, it's going to be delivered to the fire departments. You guys will also get a copy of it. My goal is to create an EMS sustainability work group within Morgan County so that we can involve the cities, the fire departments, and the hospitals to work together from multiple perspectives to try and figure out how we're going to sustain EMS in Morgan County.
I have one more question that just came to mind. And what would you do if you only had 1 or 2 ambulances on and you had a mass casualty event? Have you planned for that?
If we had a mass casualty event right now within Morgan County, we would have to call Logan, Washington, and then ambulance services from the Front Range to respond.
How many first responders are in the county, do you know?
In total, I don't have that number for you. We do have other paramedics and EMTs that live in the county who currently don't work for us. And we know them personally, friends of ours, but I don't have that number for you.
Question about that. When you said other paramedics, are they allowed to practice here?
Other paramedics that live in the county,
Mm-hmm.
they would have to work for Morgan County Ambulance Service.
Okay, see, that's what I thought, because I think we heard that at the last council meeting, because we do have a couple firefighters that are paramedic certified, but they cannot legally practice.
They would have to be employed with Morgan County Ambulance and under our medical directors to be able to practice on the ambulance service.
So they're limited in scope to their EMT capabilities.
Correct.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about the cyano kits
Yes.
in our work session. You want to give a quick rundown on that? Because you put together the agreement, is that right? Or
We did put together the agreement, and I worked with Tad to work on that as well, so that we could present that to you. The goal of the cyano kit is to be prepared. Like I said, we respond to those structure fires with the fire departments. We have a lot of toxins that come out during those structure fires. We have synthetics and all those other things. And cyanide poisoning is not a very common occurrence, but when it does happen, it also, ultimately, if you don't have a cyano kit, the chances of survival is very slim. And I understand that it is a little bit expensive for the medication. I can't put a number on somebody's life. And so if the fire departments or the chief has that medication with them and one of their firefighters goes down, our paramedics are fully ready to administer that medication. And we felt like it was more appropriate for the fire departments to house it for us because they're the ones who are responding to the structure fires. We're also responding, but like I said, we have seven physical ambulances in the county, and it just makes more sense for the fire departments to have it on their trucks. So.
We'll talk about that.
No, thank you for what you do, though, man.
Thank you.
During COVID, I had a family member that took 3 ambulance rides in like 8 days, and you're the one that showed up. And they didn't go quietly, right? They put up a fight, and so a lot of horrible things to you. So thank you for what you do. So yeah, it's they put up a fight.
I tried.
Yeah, no, you took it well, man. You took it well.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Travis.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Next, we have citizen comments. Do we have anyone for citizen comments? Are you here for citizen comments? I know Suzanne's not. Westwood. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to management. Oh, for the public hearing. Okay. No? Work session. Work session. Okay. We'll move on to management items. First we have proclamation 23-1. We have Suzanne Brown here with DHS to say a few words on this one.
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Brown. I am the intake manager for Child Protective Services here in Morgan County. And of course, this month is Child Prevention Month. And so we do proclamations with each of the cities and with the Board of County Commissioners to help stand up against child abuse. And so I do have nice little pens for each of you. So I'll just start with Allison. She can pass them through, and then I'll just let her read. And if you have any questions at the end, I'd be happy to answer anything for you.
Very good.
I have to throw them.
Thank you. All right, and Allison is going to read the proclamation.
All right. Proclamation number 2023-1, the proclamation affirming April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Colorado children are our most precious resource. Whereas children are key to the state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, while children are our most precious resource, they are also our most vulnerable. Whereas children have a right to thrive, learn, and grow to their full potential, and whereas the prevention of child abuse and neglect strengthens Colorado's families and communities and ensures the opportunity for children to develop in healthy, trusting families, schools, and neighborhoods, and where that consequently builds the foundation of society, and whereas we must come together as partners to keep children safe, ensure that the voices of our children are heard by all, and extend a helping hand to children, and whereas each of us plays a role in the prevention of child abuse and neglect, we encourage anyone concerned about the safety and well-being to report to 1-844-CO-4-KIDS. Whereas we call upon all community members to provide safe, stable, and nurturing relationships and environments for our children, free of violence, abuse, and neglect. We can ensure that Colorado's children will grow to their full potential as the next generation of leaders, helping to secure the future of this community, state, and nation. And therefore, as the mayor of the city of Brush, she does hereby proclaim April 2023 Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Very good. Thank you.
As a lot.
Do any of you have any questions about what we do, what we help do?
Sure.
No? You can, hold on.
If you would like to tell us.
So,
what we do.
I do we do the investigative part. So when a call comes into the state hotline, we have screeners that take the calls. They put it into our state automated system, and then if it reaches the level that we feel it needs to be assessed, we go out and assess and investigate to check on the safety of children. We are moving to what's called a differential response, which is we are not looking to look at findings like we used to in the past, where we are now working with families to provide resources to them. So if there's things like the Family Center, Centennial Mental Health, anything like that that we could put in and assist a family with, that's going to be our goal. And so it still keeps children safe, and that's what we're about. But we're also about helping families and making sure families stay together, because we find out that kids do much better when they are in their own home. So that's what we're looking forward to moving towards this year.
Thank you for what you do.
Absolutely.
So based on what you just said, then I think maybe sometimes everyone's mind immediately jumps to the worst case scenario when you hear child abuse prevention.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the most basic of things too that could be considered abuse, such as not having proper home life like food and clothing. So you're helping at all levels, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And we are, like I said, we're really looking at trying to put resources in for families, and we are working with different agencies. We have pulled in some different agencies from the Front Range to help out with different things. We now work with the Interagency Oversight Group, which works with the school system. And so we really have had wonderful success with our schools. A lot here in Brush, because they have really contacted us. We've worked hand in hand with the school counselors to put in some really wonderful services. The schools have really stepped up. So it allows the department to just kind of be in there as a service and not as like a hammer, like in the past it used to be like, oh, that's a really bad thing. It's like, no, we just want to see what we can do to help assist you, and then we're in and out, because you have every right to raise your children the best way you see fit.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Thank you,
Suzanne.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, I would look for a motion on that proclamation.
I move that we approve proclamation number 2023-1, a proclamation affirming April as Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Councilor Garrell?
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. And that motion passes. Next, we have a resolution number 2023-6. I'll have Dan talk about this one.
So, Senate Bill 23-213 has been proposed. I believe it's in committee right now. The Senate probably will vote on it in the next week or two. It's 150 pages. Essentially what it's doing is, at the state level, the intent of it is to provide affordable housing, and they're doing it at the state level. Well, that's fine, but zoning, building codes, all that stuff is usually done at the local level. And so even if you agree with the content, the big issue with this bill, and CML opposes it, every town I've worked with has opposed it, is basically Denver saying, yeah, it's great you have your own zoning rules, but ours are going to supersede yours. One of the examples is if we have a piece of property here that you can put a single family home on, and that's all that brush would allow, the state is saying, well, we now have the authority to allow us up to a sixplex on that same piece of property. So I think that maybe the intentions of this bill were great, but we can accomplish every single thing that is accomplished by this bill at a local level without saying, yeah, this works in Denver, it might not work here. I have not read the whole 150 pages, just as a disclaimer. I'm happy to dig down into it, but it is kind of moving real fast, and it's almost by design. I feel like they're trying to push it through, so I'll try to answer questions, but I would recommend
Dan, CML also, didn't they say that they're opposing it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
CML is taking a position on that one, and
So what do you recommend?
So I would recommend that we
Deny it?
oppose it.
pass this resolution opposing Senate Bill 23-213.
Can I add something as well?
Mm-hmm.
I was curious about this as well because it impacts land use, and so I was on the call that CML had put on. There was hundreds of representatives from around the state on that call just to better understand it, and Kevin Balmer, the executive director at CML, expressed his concerns as well, all the staff that they had on there overall, but some of the things that they spoke to as well about a lot of general areas that are in the bill that affect things such as water is a huge one as well. Just vague language that can really be interpreted and taken a lot of different ways, and so it's full of holes. Good legislation, they patch those things up as they go along. I don't know if this will happen or not. If it does go through as it is or with minor changes, it's going to cause just headaches and confusion all over the state and ongoing revisions, and so yeah, I support Dan's conclusion that we oppose this and have the resolution.
And CML sent out a petition, I think, asking mayors and administrators to sign, so I did sign that for Rush. That we would oppose that. So, on this topic?
I don't think so.
For the land use for this bill, what you got?
Chuck Miller, 2606 Old Morgan County Road S, lifelong resident. What agency will carry this out if it's passed?
DOLA, I believe. Yeah, I believe it's DOLA.
Okay. Well, I've spoken to previous councils about Section 1712, Title 43 of the Federal Code. And this works also at the state level. And it's called the coordination mandate. And basically what it means, anytime there is economic impact within a municipality or any taxation districts can adopt coordination. And anytime you can prove an economic impact means that they have to come to the table, and that's your table, and coordinate with you. And so they'd have to sit down and work through all the workings of this on the agency level to coordinate with you, City Council, when they're affecting your land use plan. Morgan County, the commissioners have adopted coordination, and I strongly suggest that the city adopt coordination because it's a direct effect on things like this. And you can discuss that and dig into it. It's once again, it's Section 1712, Title 43 of the Federal Code, called the coordination mandate. And it's just a very powerful thing that requires them to coordinate. And that doesn't mean you have to run to them and go to meetings. They have to come to you. So that's all I wanted to say. I think it's a very bad bill.
Yep, that's why we're opposing it. Yeah.
So when you said speak for it, I wasn't speaking for it. Let's do it.
All right, so I'll look for a motion to pass this resolution.
Move to approve resolution number 2023-6, a resolution of the City of Brush in opposition to statewide land use and zoning preemptions in the Senate Bill 23-213.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. That motion passes. All right, we have a public hearing. So I will open the public hearing for ordinance number 902-23, an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 4-12 of the Brush Municipal Code regarding plumbing code, fuel gas code, mechanical code, energy conservation code, fire code, existing building code, numbering buildings and antennas, hazardous buildings, housing and building regulations. So our staff report will be from Tyler Purvis.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So this is the second reading for the ordinance that we put together. These were just overall changes and updates that we were making to our land use code, specifically to all that different aspects of the building code. One of the big motivators was last year when we adopted some of the 2018 versions, they were just taken as a whole. They weren't really, no exceptions were made and some errors were made with that. And so we went back through some of the notes that had been made by the previous building inspector and a code consultant that the state had hired to work with us on revising some of those. And so we had worked on finishing those up. Council had approved the IRC and the IBC. So this is just the other elements of it. The rest of this also includes the state mandate, referring kind of to the resolution that was just passed about the state overreaching. And so, personal opinion, if I'm allowed to share it at all, but the state seemed to be moving more and more in that direction. And so with that came the requirement that after July 1st of this year, any changes that are made to your building codes, you automatically have to update the newest version of the energy code. So something that we wanted to avoid if possible. And so we're getting all this in place prior to then. And so we've gone through and made all the revisions that we thought necessary. As always, with any kind of code, it has the ability to change over the course of time. We'll no doubt come across different things, different elements 3 months from now, 10 years from now, that we want to adopt. And so we always have the ability to do that. But as it's presented tonight, staff recommends that council supports all those changes. Any questions?
Thank you, Tyler. All right, do we have any public testimony on this? Members of the public have the opportunity to make statements either in support or in opposition to the ordinance. All right. Does council have any questions? Doesn't look like we have any public testimony. Any final questions from council? I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. So I would now look for a motion to approve or deny on second reading.
I move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 902-23, an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 4-12 of the Brush Municipal Code regarding plumbing code, fuel gas code, mechanical code, energy conservation code, fire code, existing building code, numbering buildings, antennas, hazardous buildings, housing, and building regulations.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. Motion passes. Next we have finance.
I move we approve payroll for March 28th, 2023 through April 10th, 2023, totaling $511,596.54.
Second.
Jeez.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Klinkhammer?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, staff reports. We'll start with Tyler.
All right, handful of things here tonight. I'll go through them fairly briefly. The first one is the North Point, also known as Brush Village 2, 45-unit apartment complex. So I've been working with the developer leading that project, and they're planning on closing on the 21st of this month for that project. And so we have a short laundry list of things to get done up until that point. And so we'll be coming back to council probably sooner than later to make a couple revisions as attorneys got involved on their side. And so it requires us to make a couple changes, nothing significant, but just for your awareness, Monty will bring more information on that. But excited about that. They did have someone reach out 2 weeks ago or so that they're wanting to do some kind of community event at some point at the kickoff. They have free hot dogs and hamburgers and that kind of thing. So more information to follow. So we're excited to see that project get started and ultimately be completed to provide that additional housing that's been long needed and will still continue to be needed within our community. Secondly, I mentioned last time about we received a site plan for Dollar Tree / Dollar General. So we're going through that, just about done with that site plan, getting that information over to them. They have some land use things they'll have to work out on their side for the site itself, but it's looking like a positive project for the community. Allo Communication also did reach back out. They've been silent on their end for the last couple months. If you remember, Bob, I can't remember his last name, had come in here and did a presentation, I think back in January, or maybe in December, for council, and so things were quiet on their end. They reached back out last week, wanted to pick up the baton on that. I was supposed to be on call with them on Friday, ended up being out sick that day, so I reached back out to them today, but they're wanting to see where that's at on our end and continue things going. So we did receive a draft franchise agreement. So we sent that over to Dan that he's reviewing, and we're also waiting for them to send some other ones from other communities so we can compare and make sure that if all this does go forward, that it has our best interests at heart. The 27th of this month, there's the annual Community Give Back Day that the school district is doing. I've been in communication with the principal over at the secondary campus, Mr. Hodgson, and so he's working with Lance on getting some different projects together that day. He's going to send some students our way to help out with the tree planting as well. We're going to have students in the downtown area as well. Students are also going to be helping out some elderly and disabled members of our community. But if you know anybody who might need some assistance that day, Dr. Wilson had mentioned a while ago that they usually have more students than they do projects. And so any opportunities for them to invest in the community that day, please pass that on to me. If you come across anyone in the next week or so that has ideas, please pass it on to me as well. And Mr. Hodgson said he's very eager to partner with the community overall and give back that day.
I'm sorry, did you say that was the 27th?
Correct.
And what times?
I'm not sure on the times, probably 8 a.m.
Usually
to...
during school hours or
Yeah,
something.
correct. And then the last item is just that Monty and I went to the commissioners meeting this past Tuesday and spoke in their public hearing that they had for the solar project south of town to address our concerns that we had spoken about with City Council in our last work session on that. We ultimately asked the commissioners to, if they were going to approve it, bring into the conditions that the Planning Commission had already recommended, additional ones specific to the city of Brush as it pertains to the Watershed Protection District. And so they took those into consideration, and they're still taking those into consideration. They actually did not make a decision that day, but they postponed it or continued the hearing with no further comments to be received until May 16th, and they're going to make a decision no later than that date. So we're going to work in the meantime with seeing what our options are and go from there. And that's all I have. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Brandon Fleckstein, our interim chief of police.
I just returned from vacation, so I have nothing to report, but available for questions if anybody has any.
You mean no one gave you reports when you got back from vacation?
What's that?
No one gave you reports when you got back from vacation? This is wrong, that's wrong.
Lots of 200 emails. I don't have everything memorized yet, so I'm still working on it.
Very good.
I have had questions already about the RV situations. We're starting to see them on the streets. Can you shed light on what we're going to do this year, like the guidelines?
Same as last year.
Same as last year.
Right, but like people don't know what those guidelines are.
I mean, I think anticipation would be using social media again to educate the community and keep them up to date. I know previously CSOs, when making those calls, the first assessment is education for people. So if we do have issues where they're outside the scope of the ordinance, letting them know the ordinance has changed, giving them some guidance and making sure, and obviously if it continues to be a difficult issue, then obviously escalating and even going so far as citing if needed. I think education, using social media and other resources.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, we changed the length of time, but that doesn't take place until Memorial Day, if I'm not mistaken.
That's where people are questioning, like, they don't understand that.
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
So we still got a whole 2 months, so, I mean, they just need to understand it right now that, yeah, they probably shouldn't be,
And it's a fairly new change, so I still think it's a lot of people that kind of revert back to historical memory, when they can have things out. So I think using education via Facebook seems to be the most prominent one for us and seems pretty useful. So that'd be my first direction, would be to go that route and carry on from there.
Thank you.
Is you doing fun for vacation, Chief, or just stay home?
Stay home with the kids.
All right.
Stay home with the wife and kids and help her around the
Staycation.
house.
Staycation.
Exactly.
very nice.
Cool, cool.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you. Tad Anderson, Fire Chief.
Good evening. So we got our training center all done. We're next week doing some training with the folks that built it. So they're showing us all the ins and outs of the building itself. Saturday we had an open house and invited the public. We figured we had close to 100 people that came. And I heard lots of comments on how intricate it is and how much training can be done in it. That was the whole point, was to show people that it's not a smokehouse, it's a training center. And that went very well. It's really an amazing structure, so we're pretty proud of it, and we're ready to get into it. We haven't yet, but we're ready.
Awesome.
Just heard today that they stopped making parts for our radios, so we're going to be actively looking at what our options are while we're still using the current radios. We won't be able to repair them. So
Do they go down often, Tad, those radios?
no, when they go down, they usually go down hard, but
Do you guys have spares there at the fire hall?
we do. So we'll be good for a little while, but we need to find out what our options are. We have a couple that we didn't have when we bought those radios, so that's a positive thing, I think, for us, that we have some options. So
Those spares likely get depleted as you add new firefighters, do they not?
they do, and we are doing pretty good at adding some firefighters. We just had a physical agility test for an up-and-coming rookie, and we've brought on 4 now. So we're up to 24 firefighters, so
Nice.
that's a positive movement.
Cool.
So, and I think the training center is gonna spark some interest.
Yeah.
So that's always good.
Cool.
So. Anything else? I think that's it.
Very good. Thanks, Tad.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Joanne Gosling, Finance Director.
I just have one quick item this evening.
7:07 p.m.
As you may recall, back when we were doing our budget and having discussions, one of the things that was brought up was the increase to our health insurance. And I did discuss the fact that CEBT, Colorado Employers Benefit Trust, at that time had told us that we would be getting a dividend refund this year. They weren't exactly sure how much it was going to be. It ended up being $565 per employee. And in June, we had 58 employees. So we did actually end up getting $32,770 back in dividend. And I thought we'd get around $25,000. So I was pretty excited.
Thanks,
That
Joanne.
helps with the increase that we get on the health insurance.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Joanne. Lorianne Beckard, clerk.
The only thing I have to report tonight is to follow up on the email that I sent out about the Ag Appreciation Dinner coming up. I actually brought tickets with me tonight, so if anybody wants them, let me know. That's all I have.
Dan Crow.
Working on a couple things kind of behind the scenes, but happy to answer any questions.
All right, Monty Torres, City Administrator.
Few items. First one from Lance. He wasn't able to be here tonight. Tonight is the first night of youth baseball games, so he's out there helping out with that. He also wanted to relay that he did visit with the school board in regards to tennis courts. At a future date, he'll bring that back to council to discuss that. And then in regards to the Prairie Trails baseball field complex that we're looking at, I wasn't sure if the council, if Lance had mentioned this before, but we didn't get anyone interested in bidding on that. So he is looking at some other ways of still moving that project forward. The guidance that I gave Lance on that is that if it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, because it's getting such a short time frame, then switch his focus to trying to acquire a GOCO grant to help with paying for it. And so he's looking into that now. The other thing from Del Cloric is he's been moving forward with the water purchases that were discussed by the city council, and that's moving forward in a positive direction as of last week. And then Lorraine is going to be looking into who was supposed to host the last city or the next city county meeting. We have those city county meetings. The last one we hosted, if I remember right, at the golf course. So I was just thinking with the ambulance service, with the dispatch agreement that we're working on with the commissioners, those might be some good topics there at the joint meeting, so you have everyone in one room. So when we find out about who is going to sponsor that one or host that one, we'll get that information out to the council.
Didn't Ray already volunteer themselves last time?
That was the CML.
That's CML, yeah. So this is the one where it's just the city councils and mayors and special staff from all the different communities and the county commissioners here in the county.
The one that
I don't know.
I want to say Wiggins volunteered, but I can't remember.
I thought Wiggins said that they wanted to do it.
So we'll verify and then see if it's on the calendar somewhere soon. And then also Tyler had mentioned about North Point and the development and some additional requirements being requested in some of the agreements that we have with the developer, and it may require a special meeting here pretty quickly. We're going to look into that this week and see what all these conditions are, and run by Dan. And then don't be surprised if you get an email regarding a special meeting here pretty quickly. Anything else on that one?
They're trying to, I mentioned that they're closing on the 21st on the property, and so they're trying to get everything together before then. And so if possible, for us to have a special meeting, it would be up to that date.
Very good.
That's all I have.
All right. What about the city cleanup?
May.
First week of May.
Well, first week of May, I think is what it is.
Okay. All right, Mayor and Council reports. Anybody have anything to report?
Who wants to go first? I guess I'll go.
You go.
You want to go, Larry?
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing I have is about the fire training facility, and as many of you know, I'm married to a firefighter, and I can tell you it doesn't matter how much they come home and explain things to you until you see it firsthand. It makes a whole lot more sense. So walking through the fire training facility was an absolutely eye-opening experience for me, because like he will come home and tell me I was doing this training and I couldn't get through this because of my SCBA, which is the air pack and stuff. He's like, I would get stuck. Actually seeing what he got stuck in was amazing to me. I was like, oh, that's a very small hole. But it is. And I'm like, I'm looking at this, and when I was on the main floor, and I think on the second level too, you have movable walls. So this isn't going to be like a stagnant facility that, oh, it's going to be the same thing every single time. They're going to be able to take the panels, move them, change scenarios, and that was really cool to me. I saw no less than 3 different styles of windows to train on, a forcible entry door. I will admit that I was trying not to throw up while I was on the 3rd level, but it looked like it had some great stuff on it, because I'm a little afraid of heights. But there was more than even I knew, and that says a lot given, you know, who I'm married to and my attachment there. But like, I do think that this is going to benefit more than just our fire department too. I think we're going to be able to really help the community as a county, and I think that that's just amazing. Second thing I just wanted to share with everyone, I don't know if many of you know this or not, but I do coordinate a youth baseball day at the Rockies for all of Morgan County. And what that is the kids get to come in and they get to do a parade around the warning track. And they are discounted tickets. And traditionally what I've done in the years past is I have just sold them at face value of what I have to pay for them with the Rockies, so that families who maybe couldn't get a Rockies game any other way would be able to go. This year I'm selling them for slightly more, which is what their intent is, to be a fundraiser. And this year $3 from each ticket is going to go to the Homefield Sports Exchange to support Morgan County youth in their sports. And I do still have tickets available for the June 10th game. So I just want to make sure that, sports is on our mind. I don't think we're going to see Lance a lot. It's busy. It's busy. So thank you. That's all I have.
Good. Thank you, Allison.
April 22nd, comedy's coming back one more for summer, so it's been good. It's been good for the course, because there's nothing going on in the winter, obviously, so been some packed houses. So Lance and I are going to put one more on, and then this will be the fourth one this year. Next year we're probably going to do the whole winter, including New Year's Eve maybe. So it's been good. It's been good.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't have anything either. So, next on our agenda is an executive session, so I need a counselor to make that motion.
I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes Title 24, Article 6, Section 402, at subsection 4F for personnel matters. The matter to be discussed is compensation for the Brush Police Department.
Somebody want to second that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Whether it's going to do it or not.
Roll call vote.
Started back to your
Counselor
head.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Groff?
Yes.
Counselor Cameron?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right.
I'll be back.
Should have ordered in dinner tonight.
Right?
Should've brought you pizza.
I knew as soon as I looked at the agenda, we were gonna be here all night.
We are back on record. Okay.
Like never use their rail so much.
So, coming back into executive, oh, there's Larry.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, Dan Crowd has his announcement.
All right, so I'll note for the record, we're coming out of executive session. It's now 8:05. I was present throughout the scope of the executive session. The scope of the discussion was within the scope of the statute, and as the city attorney, the attorney-client privilege attaches.
Good. And then, I guess we can have a motion on our direction for staff.
I move that we discuss this executive session at the next meeting with other counselors present.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Lundstrom,
Yes.
Counselor Doral,
Yes.
Counselor Clint-Cameron,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. Okay. Now I'd look for a motion to adjourn this meeting so we can move into a work session.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Anybody
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
There we go. Okay. So the first item in our work session, we're moving to another one. So we have the intergovernmental agreement with Morgan County for the cyano kits discussion.
So just a little bit of background on the is it cyano kits? Cyano kits. We had a quick presentation by one of the firefighters talking about it. As far as we got with it, Joanna and I talked about that a little bit, and for our budgeting process, we didn't need to have any type of agreement for us to purchase the cyano kits. I think it was $1,200 or $1,400 a piece, if I remember right. So that's just something easily that we can put in the budget each year. But I think that just because it's a controlled item, you probably have to have some type of paper in hand just saying how it's going to be handled. I don't know if it's considered part of a formulary. Is that part of a formulary?
How it's administered?
Yeah, you might give us a little bit more background on it.
Sure. So the cyano kit is only administered by a paramedic. We have to have clear clinical signs to be able to administer it. And there is a formulary, like I said, they have to meet essentially check boxes or requirements to be able to administer. It's not a controlled substance.